I was driving on I-25 in traffic, and what once was flowing all of a sudden came to a halt. I barely missed the driver in front of me, and the guy behind me slammed straight into me. I jumped out of the car to check the other driver in shock and my heart racing. The store was eerily quiet. You could hear carts being pushed and things being taken off shelves, but no one was talking. I was standing there, bandana covering my face, and scanning my personal space for potential intruders. I was rolling down a dirt road through a city in a combat zone, eyeing every culvert and stopped vehicle suspiciously, my heightened senses keeping me grounded in the present, ready to respond to any threat. I've been describing moments in my life where I was having a stress response. And stress, for most of my life, I viewed it as an ambiguous cocktail of negative feelings and bad reactions. And while this is certainly a description of the effects of poorly managed stress, it is not the full picture. When we experience stressful situations, our brains are actually designed to release stress hormones into our bodies. So Bessel van der Kolk, in his book, The Body Keeps the Score, actually explains that when faced with stress, our amygdala sends signals to the body through the release of cortisol and adrenaline and other stress hormones. And this increases our heart rate, our blood pressure, our rate of breathing, and prepares us to fight back or to run away. That's what we call the stress response. So when you're faced with an unsettling situation, your brain recognizes the stress in an instant, releases that cortisol and adrenaline, stress hormones, etc. And this has ensured the survival of the human race since time immemorial. Furthermore, when higher amounts of cortisol and adrenaline are pumping through our nervous systems, we become laser focused on solving the problem or avoiding the problem. And these hormones actually linger in our nervous system. So they've actually studied cortisol, and it can stay in your nervous system for 72 hours before returning to normal levels. And our brains naturally return cortisol to normal levels and other stress hormones to normal levels through the release of serotonin. So 72 hours is a long time to be coming down off the fight or flight response. And it can have a negative influence on our relationships. Dr. Carl Lehman is another psychiatrist who specializes in trauma therapy and helping people heal from trauma. And while studying the role of community in therapy, in healing from trauma, he realized that our brains actually have relational circuits. So these circuits, when appropriately working, they actually help us to have enriching relationships with other people that helps us to connect and be focused on the other person and the needs of that other person. And as you can imagine, when two people are both focused on the other person, that can be very enriching, and it helps build trust and heal from past hurts and calm down from stress, etc. He also recognized that when our bodies have stress responses and when cortisol, adrenaline, and other stress hormones are pumping through our nervous system, that our relational circuits effectively get turned off. So when they're turned off, we immediately switch into problem solving or problem avoiding. So you can see how stress and stress responses are very helpful to survive life or death situations. But what about when it isn't? What about times that you really need to be compassionate when you don't feel like it? Like in these quarantine moments when we're all around each other and we need to remain in a calm state, an equanimable state. Ah, man, I said that wrong. But you get the idea. It's not easy, but there are things that we can do to help us stay focused on the relationship rather than the problem, to keep the relationship bigger than the problem. And it begins with awareness. Dr. Carl Lehman developed the following list of statements, and I'm actually going to share my screen now, which if you read these statements, and if you can answer, yes, this is true of me, then your relational circuits are effectively turned off, and you need to turn them back on. So I'll give you a quick second to read through these. But if you answer yes to any of these, your relational circuits are off and you need to turn them back on. So I know what you're saying. Great, Jonathan. You've given me a way to know that something's wrong, but how on earth do we fix it? And I'm glad you asked, because that's a great question. When we're having these stress responses, our brains are also equipped to calm down and to release serotonin. And our brains do this naturally. But there are things we can do to actively increase the release of serotonin in our bodies. And what I'm going to share with you is box breathing, or 4x4 breathing. And the US Special Forces actually use this primarily to calm down from stressful situations when they're deployed in combat environments around the world. So I figure if the Green Berets and special operators can do it, then we can do it in our regular lives as well. So I actually want everybody to get involved with this. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a deep breath in for 4 seconds, and then we're going to hold it at the top for 4 seconds. Then we're going to release it for 4 seconds, and we're going to hold at the bottom for 4 seconds. All right, so 1, 2, 3. Deep breath in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Release, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Now, I can't see everybody, but I'm assuming you participated, and thank you. If you do that for 3 to 5 minutes, when having a stress response, studies show that it can completely counteract the effects of cortisol in your system. Now, because I have a couple seconds, I want to share a story about when this was true for me. I was giving the girls a bath, and usually it's a happy, giggly time, and it was irritating me. I recognized that I had shortness of breath, that I was feeling hot, and that I was having a stress response. And I remembered that work email I checked right before. So I said, Roxanne, I need a minute. I went to the other room, did that deep breathing for 3 to 5 minutes, immediately felt calming throughout my body, was able to return and enjoy my daughters. So when you have a stress response, there are things you can do. And I hope this helps you today. Thank you.